always been a haunted person. I mean, I say that literally. When I was a kid, when I'd go to bed, the shadows were just really horror show. I mean, that was really something else. Now, I didn't see anything different about that because I didn't know not everybody was like that. That dovetailed beautifully when I discovered the Gothic culture. Because suddenly I thought, oh my God, there's a group of people who are dressing like I want to dress and listening to what I want to listen to. That's how I became Baron Marcus, the lead singer of the Vampire Beach Babes. I became an entertainer to support the scene. And it's funny, I think a lot of bands, they're out to play their music and have fun. Well, I'm there too, however, there's something more. I believe this is important. I believe the exploration of ourselves aesthetically and the exploration of our understanding of the paranormal in its relation to daily life is what drives me as an artist.
And a room full of people that are partying, that are open to their hauntings, is a lot of fun.
It's the best thing you can imagine.
Next, Shadowhunter investigates a vampire murder. There's something really attractive about this whole goth vampire world. I was beginning to feel strangely drawn to it. I needed a reality check, so I went to see ex-goth Matthew Didier, president of the Ghosts and Hauntings Research Society.
About 2 years ago, I wrote an article, and it was on vampires and vampiric lore and the history behind what vampires are and how it's sort of graduated into what it is. We put it online, and interestingly enough, within a week, I had an email from a supposed vampire. And the vampire basically told me I was wrong and that what I had done is now alerted a certain, apparently, community of vampires to my presence and to the fact that I was a non-believer. And they actually said that I was in danger. It was very vague, that, you know, it was like, you should watch where you're going and don't sleep too soundly, and even those around you are in trouble.
It looks like Matthew didn't take his vampire threats very seriously. He gives me the impression he didn't take his goth days very seriously either.
I used to love to tell people when they'd say to me, why did you dye your hair black and why do you go to these clubs? I would openly look at them and say, to get laid. When you really look at the psychology of a lot of people that are in the alternative scene, you're going to find that in high school and junior high school, they were kind of the losers. They were the ones that were being picked on, that really didn't have much, so they gravitated this to give them a sense of community. To find something that is dark, spooky, that I don't need to look like a 600-pound muscle man or have a lot of money, but there is this part I can play that empowers me, and I think that attracts them. You're looking at eternal life, and you'll never get sick. You can beat up every kid on the block. All these bits and pieces of it draw people into that because they want to have that power.
It's not just the goth crowd. We all seem to have a fascination with the dark side. To delve into the psychology of darkness, I went to see an old professor of mine, Steve Parrott.
We seem fascinated with darkness and evil. We like to watch horror movies, we like to watch crime dramas, and certainly we have this fascination with blood, and you know, the whole goth movement reflects that. Where these attractions come from, I'm not completely sure. Certainly I think the appeal to darkness is more than just learned. I think probably a chunk of that is innate within us. The forms that that darkness takes, obviously, is learned. We can be the best behaved, socialized human being in the world. We'll still take the chance to run back and play at the evil side of ourselves. Sometimes that's once a year at Halloween, but for other people, it's all the time. The concern, though, I think, when we're pushing this dark side and looking at the dark side, is what do we expose adolescents to? How dark does it need to be? Because if we don't put binders on ourselves, we keep tasting darker and darker and darker. And pretty soon we're not in a safe setting anymore. Pretty soon we are over in the dark side.
When it comes to darkness, sometimes the line between reality and fantasy becomes blurred. According to Elizabeth Miller, this confusion led to disastrous consequences in the mid-18th century, when vampire hysteria was at its height.
One of the accounts, for example, a typical account, would be of somebody who was presumed to be dead, without the medical abilities to determine exact death. It would be assumed the individual was dead. And particularly if there was an epidemic of plague or something like that, the person would be buried in a shallow grave, just wrapped in a shroud. Later, a couple of hours later, the person would wake up and would claw his way out. And of course, he'd come back to the village in the shroud with blood on his fingernails and maybe up around his mouth. And the villagers would see him, living proof. Vampire, we buried him, you know. Uncle so-and-so was buried 2 days ago, and here he is coming back, and he's got blood on his mouth and blood on his hands. So they would find a wooden stake and pin him to the ground and drive the stake through his heart and dispatch him that way.
Do vampires actually exist? When Shadowhunter returns. I finally got up the nerve to ask the world expert on Dracula the $10 million question. Do vampires actually exist?
If you define a vampire as a supernatural creature that can change into a bat and so on, then I've yet to see any hard and fast evidence that such things exist. But they exist in some people's dreams, so I suppose at that level of reality, they exist. They certainly have a fictional reality. They exist in fiction, they exist in films. They have a very powerful hold on us for something that doesn't exist. So it's just, I think, a matter of what you mean by existence.
The vampire has certainly come a long way from the bloated corpse of folklore. Today's vampire is a truly romantic hero. Powerful, erotic, immortal. Everything we want to be. The vampire has the power to seduce and frighten all at the same time. No wonder we can't get enough.
About 10 years ago, after I'd been at this for 2 or 3 years, I figured, well, I'll get a book or two out of this and then it'll be over. And I'm still at it. And there's always something else. There's always a new production, there's always a new twist, there's always a new interest in it. And I just find that it keeps on going. And my interest in Dracula is like Dracula himself. You know, you can't keep a good vampire down. And I don't think Dracula's ever going to disappear.
What do we have here? Oh, it's from my friend Ritz. The Madams of the Parlor Room invite you to attend an evening of divine decadence. A night filled with multiple play areas, hors d'oeuvres, elixirs, and beautiful people in the most unique of venues. I just might take the women up on their invitation. Come to think of it, I know exactly what to wear.